snacks.
Ooh boy. Ooh boy. What it do? Snackers and snackettes. It's your boy Gage. Sin is in the very green building.
What's happening?
Folks also in a very green building.
Yo.
Golden TVA background behind us, and that's because it is time for another episode of Spoiler Boys.
Spoiler Boys.
Listen, before we get into this, I just need to say it's in the name.
I know,
Marcus?
for real.
It's in the name, but I'm telling you now, we are going to be spoiling the finale of Loki season 1 right here, right now. Right here, right now. What up, Alfonso? So this is your fair warning. We're gonna give you a little time. If you haven't seen the last episode of Loki yet, stop what you're doing. Go
because we're about to ruin
Fix your life.
Stop what you're doing because we're about to ruin the Loki and the TVA that you're used to. So I just a few more seconds before we get a little too into it. How's everybody feeling? People seem so excited. Hey, listen, man, it's killing me now. Listen, the timer is not the timer. I think it's something with Restream for whatever reason.
Yeah, that we're using.
And the way it's going in, like the timer is just being too choppy. So we're gonna have to make a new timer, probably a shorter timer.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, but it might have been time for that anyway.
I got questions. Got
questions.
Got the notebook ready. I got questions.
Look, Marcus said, "Can't ban me here. You're already after you, Frosty." Listen, let me tell you something right now, children. Marcus and Frosty, I don't have time for this today. This is Spoiler Boys class. We don't have time for this today. So all right, I think we're like 3 minutes in, give or take. I think it's fair to say you've been warned. This is the point in time where we're getting ready to go into what happened in this episode because we got a lot to talk about. We need to not only talk about this episode, how it affects past episodes, what it means for the future of the MCU. We got things to talk about, and we're gonna start doing it right now. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Listen, the smile on your face before we even jump too deep into it. What's up, Heather? Before we even jump too deep into it, this is what I need to know from you. 3, maybe 4 episodes in, you was like this on this show. You know what I mean? You wasn't feeling it.
Episodes 3 and 4 had me like, it wasn't doing it for me.
Where we at?
The finale has redeemed itself. Like after 4, those last couple episodes, it has redeemed itself with me. And although because I still feel shaky of those episodes, I'm not like, oh my God, championing it like so many people are. I'm happy and I'm satisfied with everything as a whole.
Okay. Jokes, where are you?
I gotta agree. Like I'm happy and satisfied with the way that things ended. Leaving us with some information as usual for us to ponder on and to make speculations for. Like that's what I love about an MCU thing.
No doubt.
So but yeah, solid. I love the way that they cleaned up and ended this episode, ended the season. I'm happy.
Okay. All right, listen. Right here, right now, I am declaring this the most important thing. This episode by itself is the most important thing.
It is. That
the MCU has done in like 5 years. Like, listen, this is the setup. This is it. Like, yes, technically Black Widow came out like last week and it's the first movie of phase 4. But this joint just rolled out. Like, this is talking phase 4, 5, mutants. This joint is like, here it is, y'all. We fractured the timeline. We did it for you. Everything you've seen before was on a controlled situation. You know what I mean?
Nah, I got
Oh
that one
man,
up there.
I think there's a lot of unhappies. There's a lot of folks. Here's first and foremost. This is the first show that they have definitively given us that there is a sequel.
Season 2.
Yes.
There's a season 2 coming of this of this show in and of itself, which does two very important things for me personally. One is we get more Loki, which is probably a good sign. But it also means we probably get more Sylvie.
Yeah.
It also means we might get a lot more Owen Wilson.
Wow.
Exactly. So, all right, let's run a few things down. Let me start with this. So last night on Weekly, Alfonso, who is here in the chat now, asked a very important question. That question was, will we see Kang in this last episode? And my response was, ain't gonna happen.
No. I said it too. I said no as well. I also said no.
Now, let's get into this.
I said, spoiler boys, that it was going to be Kang.
And guess what?
My man is the whole episode.
You're wrong. So here's the thing.
I was kind of.
There's a little bit. There's a little bit.
Right.
There's a little bit.
Right.
So here's what we need to establish first and foremost. We know that Jonathan Majors is playing Kang the Conqueror, and he will be in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We know that. Okay. Yes, Heather. Technicality.
I'll take that point.
The one who remains is not Kang the Conqueror.
Right.
This character is technically, though they never say his name, is technically Immortus, who is in the comics a version of is someone who eventually becomes Kang.
Right.
He's a person from the 30th century in the comics, 31st century here, that discovered time travel, went to the past, made himself a pharaoh, Rama-Tut, okay, so that he could rule and so forth. I don't think they named him in the credit. I know that they said special guest Jonathan Majors. I don't think they said whom he was playing.
Right.
Yeah. Right. He is gonna be like Eddie Murphy. He gonna be like Eddie Murphy in almost everything Eddie Murphy does, where he plays 5 characters because part of his shtick. And this is a character who in the comics ends up pretty much exactly where this character is in the MCU, in a place where he has control over the timeline in order to prevent himself from causing the issues and from there being a Kang the Conqueror as we would know it. Like in the comics, there's a bunch of Kangs from a bunch of different universes. There's even a council of Kangs with a rack of them. There's a lot going on there. But it's kind of important to understand that what you saw is technically a variant. And in almost the same way, while like Sylvie is a Loki, she's not Loki. She's Sylvie. And other Lokis went by Loki, were called Loki. She's not. She's Sylvie. This is Immortus. He is a variant. And in some manner, I guess, like the prime variant. In the same way that they were, like, there was a lot of play throughout the series of who is the supreme Loki, who is the main Loki, who's the real Loki. For all intents and purposes, I guess you could say that Immortus is like the real Kang, even though he's not technically Kang yet. He's trying to prevent Kang from being a thing. We will absolutely see other versions. We're absolutely going to see other versions of Kang. There's no two ways about it. Right. He said that there was a Conqueror variant, and that is what we're going to see. Let's start running through what happened in the show.
Mm.
So I really want to talk about Renslayer. We're gonna get to Renslayer. We're gonna get to Mobius, but when we see Loki and Sylvie entering the castle, this castle looks a lot like what's in the comics. It's called Tenebrae Castle. I'm gonna assume I said that right. But it's like Tenebrae Castle. And here's the thing. People have thought that they had seen Tenebrae Castle in the last Ant-Man movie when they were in the quantum universe.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that immediately knew that Kang was coming because they spotted the castle. And I'm going to show it to you. See that? See that castle over in the right? Yeah. That's from the last. That's from a scene, a shot in the last Ant-Man movie. Okay, so that again, we know we're gonna see Kang in Ant-Man in Quantumania. We don't know how this plays out and how exactly it affects the timeline. Just understand that castle is a thing. That the void or where they are, like technically in the comics they call it limbo, but there's more than one version of limbo. It's a little bit much. Anybody who saw New Mutants, first of all, hopefully nobody saw New Mutants, but anybody who saw New Mutants, you saw it. I know you watched it the other day.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
So there's a character named Magic, right? In the New Mutants. I think Renslayer went back and changed the timeline. Yeah, I think she went back and made a change to something.
Yeah,
is what I think happened. There's a limbo that she goes into, which is like a demon realm, and then there's limbo, which is like time, which I guess in this case they're calling the void. All right, so he exists in the void. They have gone to see him. Let's talk about Miss Minutes for a second. Because I told y'all Miss Minutes was something dirty.
You did. She had a lot of attitude in this episode. I was I started really paying attention to it because you kept like bringing that up. I was like, okay. And the first time she gave the attitude, I was like, oh yeah, we got this one. Yeah, she's.
Oh, we knew that. It's Tara Strong.
I'm saying I didn't know. That's what I was saying. I started paying attention more to that this time around, and I was like, oh yeah, she's nah.
Yeah, I'll be real. I'm still working on developing a theory around exactly who that is, who Miss Minutes is, who she actually works for, and what she does. Because I didn't get the answers I was looking for correct. Yeah. Right now, she's witness protection for me. Like she's just like
at least we get a season 2 where you still can get those answers.
Right, which I think is look, who knows exactly. It's odd though that there's a possibility that she's a Renslayer from somewhere else that is doing something different. But the fact that she seems to be acting on her own, like when they get past her, she comes up and starts making offers to them. I mean, listen, you can give you all the things you want. Let me pause for a second. Let me hold on for a second. Can we talk about, let me take my hood off. Let's talk about head fakes. Marvel, they are the queen of head fakes, bro. They had, when we did the last episode of Spoiler Boys, I was like, listen, even you jokes, you was like, it's probably Loki. It's probably Loki that's in the castle. And I'm like, you might be right. And the only reason why I thought you might have had something there was because throughout the trailers, they kept showing this version of Loki that was sitting on the throne of Asgard. Mm-hmm. And it looked like they were approaching each other and like there was going to be this whole fight and blah, blah, blah. And dog.
Nope.
It wasn't there. Like I was waiting for Loki to be like, you know what? Sign me up. I want that. You know what I'm saying? Or for him to be like, you know what? I'm with you. Sylvia, you can beat feet, kick rocks. I want this. I want to be the.
You can never 100% trust the Marvel trailer.
That joint is right alongside Hulk running with the Avengers in the
Infinity War.
Yeah. Slim,
they moved that joint to the void at the end of the timeline somewhere.
Here's the thing. Okay, Heather says she gets the impression that dude didn't know about Miss Minutes. He does, because
he knows everything.
When they were talking to him and they referred to him as he who remains, he said, she's still calling me that. He knows. Is she still calling me that? And then he specifically referred to it as like basically like it's not my name, but I like the way it sounds. You know what I'm saying? So he's aware of it. He's aware that he's being called that, and he's aware that somebody is calling him that. That someone is calling him that. Who that person is, we still literally have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make it tied to Renslayer. I just haven't figured out how to do it just
Which
yet.
way to put it in there just yet.
But again, this is a sentient being that is operating in some manner outside of what Immortus, or He Who Remains, is operating. This is not, it's not his secretary, I don't think. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Not that I can tell. You know what I mean? And here's the other thing. For a sentient being that is also just like an image, she's awfully afraid of actually getting hurt. Like, if you remember in the episode where Loki was sitting at the desk and she was like talking to him and asking him questions and whatever, he starts swinging at her and she's actually jumping out of the way, which means she can be damaged. Like, she's afraid of getting hit and taking damage. That's a thing.
Has she ever showed up outside of the TVA until this time?
Well, not outside of this.
No.
Okay, I was just double checking that. I'm okay. So this was the first time she actually showed up outside of it.
Right. She's always been in the TVA. And again, the fact that she can show up in that form, in the void, is like, okay, this isn't just some construct that was built. You know what I mean? For the TVA. It is doing something to keep the TVA in check. But somebody is behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can't really figure out much more than that, so we're gonna move on from this minute.
What up, Perp?
Elevator. What's up, Perp? Talk about the elevator scene. The notion that Immortus, He Who Remains, is flesh and blood. Right? Hope you're not disappointed. You know what I'm saying? I got issues with my nose. I need to sneeze. I gotta eat. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, just a regular dude. I hope you're not disappointed, right? Yeah, Marcus, checks and balances, but who's checking and who's balancing? That's the question. And then they start taking swings at him because they finna take my man head off.
Oh yeah.
They finna take my man whole head off. And him being able to move, you actually do see him when you watch him. You see him touch. I guess his very special original tempad. His clock with no time. You know what I mean? To move. Every time they try to do something to him, he uses it to get himself out of the way. And as he begins his exposition, it begins to become clear that he is aware of who they are, why they're there, and he is telling them straight up, I laid this all out for you. Y'all only here because I want you to be here, right? And you begin to kind of see, again, one of the things that Marvel is really good at doing is taking a villain, humanizing that villain, and getting you to kind of see and understand, right, what they're doing. So getting to a point where he's like, all right, here's the deal. Let's get this all out of the way, and just, here's a folder. Here's everything you was about to say. Here's everything you just said. I already know what's cracking. Per said, other than Kang being at the end, Loki was boring. I'm not mad at that. Did you miss the explanation for why Sylvie got pulled from her timeline? Absolutely not.
Nope.
Absolutely not.
Thought we was gonna get it for a second, for real.
However, here's the thing. There's a part of me that thinks that, all right, so if you listen to what he was saying to them, that it seemed like it was necessary for both of them to be where they are, that it was going to take two people to do the job that he had been trying to do, or he had been doing for so long. And that for eons, he's been doing this. He's been there for a very, very, very long time, lived a million lifetimes or whatever, and has been actually looking for the right person to pass this to. And that passing it to the right person never seemed to be right. It specifically seemed to need to be the two of them. I am under the impression that she got plucked from her timeline specifically because they needed her, a female version of Loki, someone who could be trusted and someone who can't be trusted, and someone who can't trust anyone, to be the right people to be in that position. So we plucked him, right? And up to this point, he knows everything that's going to happen. And then we cross the threshold where he no longer knows what's going to happen. And you can actually see pure joy, like pure excitement in his face of like, I don't
straight up,
I haven't known what was going to happen.
And he straight up bodied it completely.
Yeah, from beginning to end.
He crushed it, yeah.
Hey, the one jump that was
like us watching this show. Like,
because you know what? What was pretty dope was when they was coming up the elevator. I don't know if you guys peeped this. My man kind of broke the fourth wall a little bit. Like when he was like looking off, he kind of looked directly at the camera, like looking straight out at like us before he kind of turned and kept going, kind of like, yeah, I know you guys out there too. Like I didn't orchestrate all this. Like I know y'all out there watching this jump. Like that zone was clean, but my man the whole way through, like, I'm like, we got something here.
Yeah, great call out in just a quote from the show, Marcus. Just like maybe like 10 seconds ago. Like I don't know what's going on anymore. But yes, she said she'd been alive much longer than Loki, and he'd been alive much longer than either one of them, right? I think she may have been pulled specifically for that, like for that purpose. Now, why she got pulled?
So
when she got pulled, like as a child, I don't know. Maybe it was necessary for it to happen early enough that she would grow up.
I was gonna say
TVA and actually seek
different life experience.
Like, he would need to be going on the mission that would lead her to be able to find him.
Right.
And he probably could see it throughout the timeline. Well, if I let her grow up in her timeline past this point, she won't have that anger, that energy, that whatever to come looking for me that I need. Facts perk. So let's jump back to the TVA for a minute and let's talk about Renslayer. Let's talk about B-15. Where B-15 is. We get that panning shot of the lockers. We see her hiding behind the lockers. It's 2018, which is, I think, key, right? Because it means that Renslayer, or at least this version of Renslayer, who seems to have been there forever, hasn't been there that long, right? We just don't understand how time passes or doesn't in the void, in the space where the TVA is. But we know that it's her variant that pulled Sylvia, at least as far as we know. That's her original variant. Again, they could have pulled a variant of her from any timeline.
Yeah,
so
Ohio
it's also
is
possible, like I was saying on another episode of Spoiler Boys, that like the version that we're seeing of her as Judge Renslayer could be a completely different variant from the one that actually let Sylvie go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That lost Sylvie. Her saying when they were talking on their way up to go visit the timekeeper and being like, I don't remember, like why I took you or what your Nexus event was. Like she probably doesn't actually remember. You know what I mean? It was a long time ago, and again, Sylvie's had the ability, she's been able to actually grow up, and keep in mind that she's a god, so she doesn't age and grow up the way humans do anyway.
Right. So
she's had the ability to grow up since she was a child in there. She's been there for a very long time. So yes, stuff keeps happening in Ohio. That is also super important. So waking the rest of the TVA up was clearly the plan that B-15 and Mobius came up with. We just gonna have them chase you. We're gonna take them there. We gotta go find Renslayer. And clearly they do. They find a variant of Renslayer because Renslayer is currently still in the TVA.
Right.
So obviously this is another version of her. And for them to be under the impression we were created here, we were created by the TVA to do this job. This is the only life we've ever lived. Having no knowledge of being variants, B-15 is now putting herself in a position to explain this to the rest of the TVA, the time police. Mobius walks into Renslayer's office in a very Owen Wilson fashion. Surprise! It's me. You're not gonna be happy to see me. How you feel about that conversation between Renslayer and Mobius? Jokes. You were happy about it.
I was
happy.
Cool.
Ready to put it down.
Yeah, dog. I thought it was gonna happen. Like I was like, oh, I was like, oh, yeah, there was a little tension, but let's hold on with that for a second. But I really thought he was coming in there and was going to just put her down. Like, or if he didn't put her down, I thought it was just gonna be like, now you're going to be the one that's going to get interrogated because there's more. There's still some more here that you haven't said that you clearly know. You in here cleaning out your desk, so who knows what documents and things that you have in here probably lined up for other plans or whatnot ever. I was for sure he was going to at least put her, at least knock her out or something, but my man failed. Like I thought my man was going to have some hands, but Renslayer,
he was weak.
Yeah, he was weak.
He was weak, bruh. He had no hands, bruh.
he at least was going to try.
Oh,
he at least was going to try.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know that he was really trying that hard. You know what I mean? But I like the conversation between the two of them of like her still being in a position of like, nah, this can't all be for nothing. This can't all be fake. There has to be a reason why what we're doing is important. There has to be some good to it, which again kind of explains her position in where she's being. Yeah, I mean, this ain't we're not expecting fights to be
This ain't Falcon and
Winter Soldier.
This is Loki. Like Loki's not a brawler at all. Like
like he's a stab you in the back kind of guy.
Right.
Now let's get into a fight up front kind of guy.
He's the dude that put something behind you and just push you over or whatnot ever and just laugh in your face.
Yeah. Like the idea that she's sold on an idea, even though the proof is being torn down right in front of her, right? But still having the impression like, well, all of this was still created. It all still obviously works. There must be a reason for keeping the timeline in check. You know what I mean? And feeling like that is still what her purpose is. Like that's what she was created for. Now, look, I was wholeheartedly expecting him to kidnap a different Renslayer and bring Shorty back and be like, look, you know what I mean? Like, this is another you. You supposed to be a assistant principal somewhere. You know
principal, whatever you are.
Right.
And again, like, who knows, right? In some other timeline, you know, she clearly doesn't do that. My man, 2012, Loki getting busy. I don't know who this emo Loki is. Look, the fact that she didn't prune my man again, and he said, look, I've been where this thing sends us. It's no reason for that to happen to anybody. Like, that's just not right? The idea of wanting to fight for free will and free will for the people, and her basically saying, like, nah, Slim, free will is dangerous. And she's right, but she's wrong. Because she's now acting on free will, is she not? Right?
Like at this point now, this is all her. It's like what she was trying to do or what she thought was doing the right thing is like, well, now I got to figure out what all this was for. It was definitely for something, but you know what? Now this is my mission.
Right.
So
and here's the thing. There are a couple of things here. One is whatever she was preparing when Mobius walked into the room, because that's a good question. Like, where did she go? Because she had already determined where she was going before Mobius got there. Absolutely. My thought is she was planning to go to the beginning of when the TVA was founded, because that's what she asked for from Miss Minutes. But when Miss Minutes turns up, that's not what she gives her. She tells her, this isn't what I asked for. Yeah. And she says, yeah, but he thought this might be more to your liking or to your suiting, something along those lines. Let's see. Perp says that doesn't make sense. They're fighting for free will in Avengers. Loki had a group of people on their knees and was about to kill an old man to make an example. Correct. Like Loki, the version of Loki that exists from this timeline is one that comes from a place where he was raised, or at least he thinks that free will, that you need to have a king. Somebody needs to tell you what to do. People are much happier when somebody tells them where to go and what to do and how to do it. Right. So this is a Loki that does, in fact, believe that or did anyway, until he ended up at the TVA and realized that everything he thought, that there's something out there that's way bigger than what he thought.
And also, he lost to the Avengers, but the other one hadn't lost to the Avengers yet when those two things had happened.
Correct. Correct. So there's it does make sense in that free will is still a thing no matter what. Like, all of it is free will. The idea behind the Sokovia Accords in Civil War is free will. It's It's still about free will. It's the government telling you what you can and can't, what the Avengers
you
can.
Can't go to these. Yeah, you can't go to these countries and save the day. No, you need your checks and balances just like everybody else do. Yeah.
It's that same story. That free will story permeates throughout almost the entirety of the MCU. So it is just continuing along that line of thoughts. Cuddy said Minutes gave her Kang files Kang wanted. Contingency plan, not knowing what Loki and Sylvie does. Again, totally possible. Right?
I knew everything up to that point, so it could be something along those lines too. Like, look, we're gonna need this, so go get started on that since I know, I'm coming to the end.
I really feel like even though he was telling the truth about not being able to see and know something, I kind of feel like he knew that he was going to end up meeting his end at the end of it. And probably what that was, I feel like, was the plan of her going back to maybe a point in time where he either existed or another Kang. And it's like, look, you need to run this TVA. I feel like the fake timekeepers, I think, were a placeholder that he put into place in case that plan failed, and so he could go back and insert himself into running the TVA.
And also remember, he told him at the end, "I'll see you soon."
Right,
like,
and that's why I think,
sound like I will see you, not one of my other variants or something like that.
Specifically me.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's another version. Maybe there's two. There's another one of him that see eye to eye and have the same thought process, have the same plan lined up, and he has this one like up to knowledge, up to speed on everything that's going on. So if everything did happen to him, this one technically could come in and shift and do things in the same manner that he wanted to be.
It does make me wonder whether or not there is another Immortus or a version of Kang that is actually feeding Miss Minutes. That is aware enough of the way he moves in and of himself that he's able to slip past and see and do things that the version that they dealt with in the castle is unaware of in some way. That the files that were given, like Miss Minutes is clearly not serving the person we saw in the castle, because he does not refer to her like someone that works for him.
Yeah.
Right? She's an outside entity. Is she still calling me that? Oh, okay. You know what I mean? She's clearly serving someone, or is the someone. But she gives those files and says he thought these would be more to your liking, which says to me there's probably another version of Kang somewhere. Could be in the quantum realm, which again, keep in mind, here's the thing. We know that Kang shows up in Quantumania. We also know that the quantum realm is not affected by time or time travel. We know that to be the case because for Scott Lang, he's in the quantum verse when everything that happens with Thanos happens. He comes back out as 5 years later, and it's only been 5 minutes for him.
Or 5 hours. 5 hours for him.
Or 5 hours for him, right? So like the timing and what happens there, very different. Is there a Kang here? Right? Is there a Kang here controlling Miss Minutes? Operating the TVA from somewhere where a Kang who does have control over time can't see him? Is this a Kang from the future who learned enough? Again, think about from the future and how smart this individual is. This is the smartest individual where they came together as worlds and built and shared technology and so forth. Is this one who snuck off while everybody else was fighting into the quantum realm and built a kingdom? You know what I mean?
Much. I think that could be it.
Found a way.
I can see that. Yeah.
To avoid everything Immortus or the Kang we saw in the castle was doing. That's where I'm at right now. That's who sent something to Renslayer. And she is going somewhere to a timeline where he can pull her into there. Because Renslayer, there's this version of Renslayer, right? Who, like, Kang loves. And she has undying love and support for Kang. And wants to see him do what he does. But Renslayer has been a Kang the Conqueror. She has infiltrated the Council of Kangs. She also becomes this character known as the Terminatrix. we could be getting ready to see that. All of these versions of her you see on screen are versions of Renslayer. In some manner, they're technically not variants, but I guess they are variants, or probably would be in the MCU.
In this category, yeah.
There's any number of possibilities for what could be happening as far as that's concerned, and I'm positive we haven't seen the end of Renslayer because one, we're getting a season 2, and 2, she didn't die. She didn't get pruned. You know what I mean? She had control over time and went somewhere. Now,
thank you, sir, for that information. By far, my favorite part of Spoiler Boys.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. So when she leaves, we cut away from Mobius. We don't see him again until the very end, and we'll get to that in a minute. We get back, and Sylvie has had enough.
Facts.
I'm done listening to you, dog.
Let me do what I came here to do.
Y'all. I've been on this joint my whole life. This is what it's all about, right? And there is a little bit of what was said to them that was sowing the seeds of the battle that takes place, right? To see who's gonna do what, and her immediately being like, "You, I couldn't trust you." You know what I'm saying? You just want the throne. You try and get rid of me so you can take the throne. You want that absolute power. That is what you're all about. That's who you've been. And for us as viewers, we know that Loki, right? This is that Loki.
I'm still mad she threw it in his face so quick like that, though. I'm a little mad.
Nah, but that was the expectation. Like she had that. She knew they would go south,
bruh. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no.
She can do whatever she wants.
I feel a little bad for Loki. Like, come on, my man been trying. I actually believe at this point. And the second time somebody throws it out there, that's the first thing you throw in his face.
Of course, because my man didn't even share his blanket the first time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
nah, he failed. He failed.
Straight slipping. Yeah, right, Ken. Nah, B, you gotta go, dog. You in the way. I'll kill you. Listen, and here's the thing. Clearly, Sylvie knows she could kill Loki. Like Loki can't beat her. You know what I mean? Like she has hands, bro. Like she been training for this. You know what I mean? Like every slight battle they've had, she just bests him. She tosses that dude around like a rag doll. She really made Loki look pretty
him and the TVA.
What?
Dog.
Just bodying. You know what I'm saying? Like it's nothing. So like them having those moments, I will say though, I really love though the moments between Sylvie and Loki. Correct, Heather. She's been fighting her whole life, right? And Loki managed to have a change of heart and see things differently, I think, because for him, he saw his own defeat. He sat in that room in the very first episode and saw that everything he did, no matter what, didn't do any good. Like it never turned out the way he wanted. He never actually wins. All he really does is cause trauma, drama and trouble for other people, but it never works out for him in the end. And then, of course, he sees himself die anyway. You know what I mean? And even that was in a last moment, still trying to be a trickster and trick Thanos. And Thanos was like, nah, Slim, you don't even need your neck. So let me just go ahead and get rid of that joint for you.
That.
Right? Yes, Sylvie is responsible in a lot of ways. She is the Star-Lord, but I don't even know if I'm ready to blame her yet.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, might be just as, and again, Miss Minutes is dirty, y'all. The anomaly. Yeah, he needs to brush up on his talk no jutsu. Dog. Yeah, like this is a Loki who is as defeated as possible. Like this is again for him. He's even saying like, I don't even know how long I've been here. I don't even know how long ago New York was. But again, that's still the freshest thing for him is the defeat that he just had, trying to take over and get I don't think.
Thank you for up there laughing emoji perp.
I know that just see, the question was being read, then the smile emoji come out. I was just like,
I was like, I know this he can't be serious. Then he put that. I was like, okay, just check.
So
that's more like a Marcus question.
Is truly defeated. What's up, Book? And he's seen enough of his own future coupled with his own past to really, I think, realize that, again, I think where I felt he was going to end up at the beginning of this when we were talking about it. And I was like, this is a Loki who sees himself as being the one who saves the universe. Right. And that can still end up happening. This is a Loki who actually sees an opportunity for him to be greater than Thor, finally, to be greater than Odin, finally, to aspire to something that actually will matter when everything that he has done up to this point didn't, and everything he was destined to do in the timeline he was plucked from also didn't matter. Mm-hmm. Like, it didn't get him anywhere. He literally made no ground at all, ever. So his defeat and him listening to what he's being told in the castle is affecting him very differently from Sylvie, because Sylvie didn't see any of that. She never saw a different future for herself. She never saw a defeat for herself. She was just a kid. You know what I mean? And all she's known is that this is what she's been fighting for. So it was certainly less effective. Again, we're at a point now where Immortus, as we're going to continue to call him, doesn't know what's going to happen. Book said I'm late, but I still think that Kang gave Miss Minutes the info to give Runslayer. That Kang didn't know he was going to live or die. The info she got if he didn't die. I think we're talking about a different Kang gave her that information. I think a Kang that is.
I'm ready to swing for the fence.
That's in the quantum realm did that.
I'm ready to swing for the fence on the info that's actually in that folder. And I only say like I'll put a tidbit of it out there. Knowing how they yanked Sylvie when she was super young to kind of build her to get her to where she is now, I'm swinging that honestly. I think this may be them going to get a younger version of him and to possibly set him up on the path like the Young Avengers to start him down this different path and at some point crossroads ahead. Because I mean, that's something that's in the works somewhere along the lines. I'm swinging right now. I want to swing. I'm gonna get one of these swings
super
right.
Swinging and it's cool. Swing away.
Yeah. You know how one of these decades of MCU, whatnot ever, I'm gonna swing and I'm gonna get it, even if I'm like 70 years old. I'm gonna get it.
Hey, I'm not mad at you. I swung last week saying Kang was going to be in the cast when I was 50% right.
Hey, listen. Let me tell you something, Joe. When you meet the variant of you that actually gets it right, you let me know, dog. Let me know.
I've been getting lucky. Hey, my luck has been doing pretty good for me now, so I don't know. This will be to continue. I'm gonna get one of these right. One of these major swing for the fence grand slam things is gonna hit.
You keep right at it, bro. I mean, look, it's totally possible, right? Susan Dorr says he and Sylvie had a moment, it changed them, but she still had no trust. Yeah, I mean, look, I think she did. Like at the end of the last episode, I think she did trust him. You know what I mean? Like I think she taking his hand. I'm gonna share my power. Like you can do this. You know what I mean? I think she did develop trust. I just think it was very easy to unsow that trust because of what she does know about not just Loki but all Lokis, right?
There's old man jokes. There's some old man jokes out there.
There could be an old man jokes, but we would still be older than you, I think. I think that's what
old man jokes will find his glorious purpose.
I mean, listen, look. Perp said Quantumania Ant-Man will defeat a version of Kang or lose that, sets up Avengers 5. Totally possible, right? Again, here's the thing. One of my favorite things about this episode is that the moment we cross the threshold, you begin to see the timeline just break apart. And it takes like this long before that joint just looks like veins. You know what I mean? Like
straight up.
Like when they
it's all over the place.
When they pan to that shot, like in space again, like looking up,
you just
and I was like, and I was looking at it for a second, like, okay, so where is the time that we started? It says like, oh no, it's all that now. Like,
it's everywhere.
That one was it, and then when he got stabbed, that joint just started going out of control.
Yeah, it's completely necessary. This is. I mean, look, let's just keep it a buck. If you're going to bring in mutants, this is how you do it. If you're going to tie in Deadpool and Korg, this is how you do it.
This is it.
You know what I mean? Like, this is where it is, right? It is branching timelines. It is the multiverse. It is struggling for control of the multiverse, or it is deciding that it's okay for the multiverse to exist.
Yeah. And
we'll see it in What If.
That's what I was about to say. This is What If. This is What If. All those, some of those branches, these are all those what if things. And if they decide to, they can yank whatever one of them in and say, you know what? This is now the main story of whichever character that you want to do for it.
Zaina says, somehow I'm not completely sold on the idea that any of this wasn't planned. You might be totally right. Again, I think there's a Kang in the quantum realm that is controlling Miss Minutes, that as much control as this Kang, this Immortus had, down to the here's the papers, here's what you're going to see, and then he loses it. That one does know. That one is trying to sow the seeds of chaos. That is if you remember when he is going through all the different versions of him and explaining what happened to the timeline before, right? That time did exist and it was stacked on top of itself. And that they learned how to travel between those and teach themselves, all kinds of things and share. But of course, that eventually meant, well, now we're fighting. We are vying for control over these realms and who has the most and who doesn't have this and who has what, right? And in essentially all those realms, he's still the person who is the person who's terrible, right? He is trying to prevent a version of himself. This is, again, we've had conversations before about how technically Iron Lad is a version of Kang the Conqueror that's from the future that comes back. So, yes, we can get Iron Lad because of this now, right? That there are so many versions of Kang that have played so many different roles throughout time. Like Immortus in the comics is a distant relative of Reed Richards. And we know Fantastic Four is coming.
It's coming.
So, again, like, we know a Kang as a Kang the Conqueror, but that's not the original name of this character and who this character was in the future. And if you are a top scientist from the 31st century, you being a scientist because your father's 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 mother's father's mother's father was a top scientist, you know what I mean? In some manner, it kind of starts to make sense, right? So the ability to pull these strings and just go, all right, this is where it happened. Again, as of right now, this episode of this show, most important thing that's happened to the MCU, period.
Yeah,
period.
This is that new, setting up the new big, gigantic whatever and going from here. And this is like our next 10 years. Like this is like the beginning culmination of this next 10 years that we're going to get.
Yes. Hey, listen, Ken, I think you're right. I think What If is going to drop a bomb on us for sure. They did announce that Loki is supposed to be in Doctor Strange 2. That makes sense to me because that's who you want in the multiverse with you when they figure out that Miss Minutes is actually working from the multiverse, dog. Like something there. And it's probably somebody in witness protection that's in the quantum realm. I'm just saying.
That witness protection, Gabe, the witness protection person is going to be the one. Like I swear to you, even if it's in the last thing of Phase 5, I swear to you, if they don't come out and just say who witness protection is,
no Frosty.
They're gonna wait till this whole end of the 10-year run, and it's gonna be after the credit scene. It's gonna tell you who was in witness protection. They're gonna make it wait that long.
Hey, listen, Galactus has to be coming. And here's the other thing. Kang in the comics is also. I tell you what. Go on Disney Plus.
Could be Adam Warlock. I'm sorry, that dude just.
Hey, listen.
Dog got written in, and then
Adam Warlock's still sitting in an incubator somewhere. Space, killing me. You want Miss Minutes to be sinister so bad. I'm not ready for that. I'm not sold on that yet. Frosty is the missing witness. Here's the thing. Go on Disney Plus and watch Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. There's a run in the first season.
I might finally have to do that.
Let me tell you something. That joint is the best show they ever did. And there is a run about Kang the Conqueror where Kang comes from the future specifically to hunt down and kill Captain America because Captain America is the reason why a war takes place. It's all his fault. He's come to stop it. And that war has to do with the Kree and the Skrulls. And we know the Skrulls are there. We know that they exist. I'm telling you, go watch that show. It also sets up and happens during Secret War. Because it turns out that even though he's blaming Captain America and everybody's like, can't be Captain America was a Skrull the whole time.
Yeah.
Dog, the show is so good. It's so good. And we have no idea who is behind any of this, but we know that in the first episode in the TVA, we saw Skrulls. We know that in the second episode, they say that they have dealt with Kree and with Skrulls. Right? Okay.
Seems to be implying it
the
still.
moon that they were on that got destroyed in that timeline, that's a Kree moon. Like, they are sowing seeds all throughout here.
Hey, Avengers 5 could be a Secret Wars type thing. I feel like Secret Wars almost would be like its own.
But Secret Wars is a show.
Well, Secret Invasion.
Correct.
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion.
Yeah. Because at this point, we hit Secret War. You know what they could end up doing? I liked how they used, when they were talking about stacking those universes on top of each other. This could be where we get to the point where we see two of those universes getting ready to actually do.
You're right, because we know Blade is coming. You're right.
Coming to get ready to slam into each other. And this is where we saw how in the comics, like Miles Morales and a couple of those other characters were able to come from their universe and then exist into the main universe. So something could happen where even though these branches are occurring, maybe one of these branches is going to end up intersecting or trying to cross each other, and these universes are going to collide. It's going to create chaos. Like,
I mean, I'm 100%. And someone's end credits, Randall Park would just be leading your witness out of the handcuffs with a grin on his face. Hey, listen, let me tell you something. Randall Park's character, that agent, is a real agent in the comics. Like, he's not just something they made up for the MCU.
Nope.
he has specifically been tied specifically to Black Widow. When Black Widow is dealing with Yelena Belova, who was the only widow to have ever surpassed the original Black Widow scores in the Red Room. Natasha scores in the Red Room, and they becomes like this rivalry between the two of them. She's about to kill Black Widow, and it's him who shows up, who puts the gun to her and is like, nah, we're not gonna let this happen. He actually saves Black Widow. It's a real thing. They don't just pull these characters out of thin air most of the time. Avengers 6 could be X-Men versus Avengers. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see the Phoenix Force. But listen, again, the idea of finding a way to meld the universes together, but also having a great way to be able to tell all these other stories that up until recently they didn't have the ability to tell because Disney didn't own Fox.
Yeah,
right.
I think is going to be really smart. The way they have set up She-Hulk, with Ross and Black Widow, the next few shows and the next couple of, because again, we don't even really know where this is completely taking place, like in terms of the timeline.
Jones all over.
I mean, we know that it started
at the end,
right after Avengers 1. But where it is right now, there's no way to know for sure. And you're right. Jimmy Woo is not quite the clown in the comics that he is in the MCU. Zane says, I feel like AVX has too much story to establish to be coming anytime soon. Yeah, we're talking like 15 years.
Oh, no. Yeah. That's
we're
down
talking
the
like
road.
4 or 5 years. Like, all right, look, let's run it down.
Phase 6.
I saved this for you. Let's talk about what's happening. We got Shang-Chi coming in September, Eternals in November, Spider-Man in December, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness in March. Again, now they're saying Loki is going to be in that movie, which would be important and incredible. Yep. Then we have Thor: Love and Thunder, which we know is taking place somewhere way out, right? Like off world. And we know that there was Guardians 3 was supposed to be in that mix somewhere, and that's pushed way back now to the end. But then we get Black Panther, which again is going to be important because the establishment of who is going to be the next Black Panther or the Black Panther that continues to carry it forward, going to be important. Then we get the Marvels, so that's Captain Marvel 2. We know we're getting Miss Marvel in that. Again, we're talking Young Avengers, we're talking mutants, we're talking the possibility of Terrigen and Inhumans. Any of those things now a possibility because of what we can see happen based on what happened in this show, this episode of this show. Then we get Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. All of that still has to happen, and we don't get that until 2023. Think about how long it was, how far back we saw Thanos before
he did anything. Like he got planned.
Before he technically became like a sewn-in threat.
Yeah.
And we're not really supposed to technically see Kang the Conqueror until Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That's a long ways out.
Yeah.
That's
We're gonna
so
get
far out.
we're gonna get
some more of his variants.
3.
He's gonna have some of his variants being sprinkled throughout maybe some of these others, especially Eternals. I could definitely see a version of him showing up in Eternals somewhere way off in space or whatnot ever. We don't technically know where Eternals even takes place at. So
correct. We don't know where it is in the timeline, but it takes place throughout. We know the Watcher is there.
They talk about the Avengers, someone who's the leader now, who could be the leader or whatnot ever. So like that joint could be Civil War, that joint could be after they all are dead or whatever you want to say it.
For all we know, it's a completely different timeline. For all we know. You know what I mean? Perp said he wants to see some more villains. You're gonna see villains.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna get more villains. There's no way that you're not gonna get more villains between now and then. It's just a matter of who they end up being and how they affect what's going on. They won't recast. They already said they're not gonna recast Black Panther. So realistically, what's gonna happen is, if I had to guess, Shuri becomes Black Panther. That's my guess.
That's it.
Perp said, wish they would stop announcing these actors that are going to pop up in these movies. It kind of takes away from the surprise. Imagine if we didn't know Jonathan Majors was even a part of Loki. Most people didn't know that Jonathan Majors was Loki. Part of Loki.
We knew he was going to be Kang, but there was no mention that he was going to be in Loki. That was just one of the that it ended up playing out, and it worked to start showing him early, just like how Thanos was. I feel like this was that first introduction until we get to Kang the Conqueror.
There is a possibility that they could have Michael B. Jordan take over as T'Challa, just based on what we've seen in What If. Right, that Killmonger. If you looked at the trailer for What If, Killmonger saves Iron Man. You know what I mean? And that T'Challa was a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what I mean? He's Star-Lord. So it could be any number of things. Frosty said, I was wondering if they were going to use it to change the Black Panther too. I don't think they did say they're not going to recast
T'Challa.
You know what I mean? So
it's done.
Again, but in technical terms, if in a different timeline, Michael B. Jordan's character of Killmonger becomes the Black Panther, you could absolutely do that and get away with it. Even if you don't recast T'Challa, like, he could still become Black Panther. Doesn't have to be Shuri. Could be that Shuri gets it because she has the ability, which is a thing that happened in the comics. Like, she had it, but again, doesn't have to be, because that's not technically a recasting if you don't make it the
same person.
Right.
Which is not different from having another Spider-Man, but it not being Peter Parker. It's whoever they decide to cast as Miles Morales, or whoever they decide to cast as Gwen Stacy, or whatever they decide to do as far as that's concerned. So again, yes, they could, as a matter of fact, do that. And in some manner, it might have been part of the plan anyway, right? Yes, there've been tons of Black Panthers, right? And so
they could pull one of them. For all we know, they come from a different time period. It could be T'Challa's father, for all we know. They just cast someone as a younger version of him, bring him in. It could be, and that's what I love about.
Well, they already had. If you think about the Black Panther movie, they cast
from the original. Yeah, you're right.
And
in the beginning,
to play the older and younger versions of T'Chaka.
They can bring him back.
Possible.
Yeah, just with the end of this Loki season, that finale episode, there's so many different branches that you can take and work things down and make it all make sense in a good way. So not as limited anymore as we were until,
And What If is going to set that up? It's going to set that up beautifully.
I mean,
especially to put those ideas in people's heads.
I think I understand what you're saying as far as not even knowing that Jonathan Majors was going to be in the MCU at all. Here's the issue I think is with that. These movies are planned so far out and so far in advance, and even they don't necessarily know what the scripts are. But there's a part of me that feels like part of the reason why Lovecraft Country didn't get a second season is because Jonathan Majors is going to be wrapped up. Like, he's busy doing other work, and like, once you become a member of the MCU, you are doing work.
Especially now with the TV shows being added into the mix, like that's work.
And they did announce like they're not signing people to those long-term contracts like they used to do. And I think that's in them doing a multiverse means they can continue to use the same characters over and over again, but have a different actor playing that person because that character is from a different universe. It's the multiverse. It's whatever.
And that works fine. That
announcement that came last week is like, there will be a Loki, but is it going to be Tom Hiddleston? Maybe.
May not be.
Maybe
and there's
not.
so many of them. I'm still upset for boastful Loki. Like that, I was like, I was all for seeing how that was gonna. But my man's a traitor, typical Loki. So
it played out how it was supposed to. You know what I mean? We'll see if Lovecraft makes it there.
If my man get wrapped up in MCU, that time to go over and do something else.
HBO ain't got that Marvel money
anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, again, there are multiple scripts for almost everything they do because they don't want anybody to know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to know, and I love that.
Anybody to know what's happening. If you remember in Endgame, the scripts that everybody had said that they were going to a wedding, not that they were going to a funeral. They didn't know they were going to shoot the scenes for the funeral until they all showed up.
Yep. Oh, by the way, guys,
in their tuxedos and their dresses or whatever,
they probably all wonder what Robert Downey Jr. is.
What happened? Yeah.
Hey, where Robert at?
The stories around all that was crazy, just how they did it, and then like nobody knowing what's gonna happen, and then they all.
But that's how you have to do it, especially for folks like Tom Holland, who, as much as he can be as innocent, like Blabbermouth says one thing and it's a wrap. So
yeah, I mean, realistically, all right. So look. The Sylvie and Loki fight doesn't go in Loki's favor.
No.
Sylvie manages to get to Immortus and slay him.
That was the most the most easiest thing.
And again, for him, it's just like I didn't know it was coming. I'm happy that something happened that I didn't see coming. And he didn't try to fight it.
Nah.
You know what I mean?
And I'll see you soon.
So he sets Loki up and sends him somewhere else. For all we know, she sent Loki. She thought she was sending Loki back to the TVA, and it was the same. But maybe she did it in some way on purpose. Because for her, it's like it's done, and now she's just sitting there. She's in the void.
Mm-hmm.
She now technically has control over time.
Yeah.
She could run the TVA. She could be somewhere telling Miss Minutes what to do in another timeline. Who knows? Right? I love the way that this ends where she's still there. Loki gets back to the TVA. And we see Mobius, B-15 trying to figure out what to do next. We need to let's go do this. Let's try this. Everybody's scrambling.
Mm-hmm.
Loki runs in. Nah, you can't. This is what's happening. Hey, who are you, dog? Don't nobody know you. Don't nobody know you. Either Renslayer went back and changed something, or he got pushed into what was a TVA and now it's a different timeline. Like even the TVA may not be exempt based on where it is from having splintered timelines, right? Zaina said, I was thinking that this whole thing was planned by him because it seems to have shot Loki back to the TVA where he is the dude. Maybe, but he's not the dude because
they don't recognize him.
They don't know him.
And you don't see the timekeepers anymore. You see this man.
You see that John standing right there.
This man with the
statue.
Hey, when I saw that, I was like, that's Kang. It wasn't the other one, but that's Kang right there.
That's Kang. You know what I'm saying? So somehow we know now that that's who's running the TVA in this joint. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Kang. Kang is the dude. But again, it could have all been planned. And again, I think it was planned. I just think it was planned by whatever Kang, the Conqueror, is in
trying to do.
In this point.
You sure he is in the snow globe
somewhere out there? My man been making plans since Ant-Man talk. Like, you know, like
that was and that's the perfect place to put it because you know that he's going to be the big
it is perfect place. Yeah.
They have been. Again, one of the things that's really great about what the MCU is and what they've been able to do is go back and like sow seeds so early on that then they can go back and tie to something. Again, please bear in mind, in Black Widow, I hope all y'all seen Black Widow. This spoiler boys, we free to speak. In Black Widow, when they talk about what happened in Budapest. I don't think the TVA is in that bubble. I don't think the TVA is in that bubble. It doesn't. It could be, because when they're looking out the window, it kind of looks like that could be where they are. But I don't think so. Frosty, cover your ears. So here's the thing. We know that she, we'll say this, killed someone and she feels terrible about it.
Right.
You got to go all the way back to like one of the earliest Avengers joints with her and Loki
having that conversation.
Her and Loki having a conversation about how much red she has in her ledger.
Name drops.
Him specifically dropping the name. Can you get that much red out your layer? So-and-so, such and such, like, y'all know how many movies ago that was? Y'all know how many years ago that was?
Yeah.
That's disgusting. That's insane.
And callbacks that go back far, they make you go back and watch those movies again.
You do, because you missed these things. And it's not even a miss per se. Like, it was out there, but
you didn't realize it. You didn't connect it at the time.
Real talk, you didn't have anything to connect it to at the time. Right? So that's one of the things that they're just really, really good at, is going back and tying up loose ends, going back and taking threads that didn't go anywhere. That's why witness protection, y'all. I'm telling you, it's coming.
It's gonna come back to it. No,
I'm telling you, they have to come back to it. They have to. There is something about that we haven't gotten, that it's not.
It's Kang.
I don't believe for a second that joint is an actual empty plot thread. I just don't.
I don't think so. I think it's a Kang or one of his variants. At this point now,
what of his
that
variants?
might be.
That could be what it is. And he plucked himself. Like he plucked himself because this one was about to spill the beans. This is about to be one of the ones.
Can I tell y'all something? Listen, I didn't want to do this. Because this is about Loki and Spoiler Boys. But let me just throw this out here. There is a part of me that feels like the witness protection person is Eddie Brock, because the Venom movies take place in San Francisco, which is not where Eddie Brock is supposed to be based or where he's from. But somehow we need a Venom in a Spider-Man movie, and New Jersey is so close to New York. It's so close to New York that if you have somebody who is an FBI agent who went all the way to Jersey because they had somebody in witness protection, what did they see? What's going on? Why are they all the way there that we never talk about? Other than having Ant-Man tied to that side and the fact that there could be a West Coast Avengers, that's the other thing that makes sense to me. Miss Menace is running all of it, right? It's Miss Minute somewhere. Here's what I want to say. I think this is not just an episode, but a series that we will look back on in a year, and only a year, and really start to see certain things that just tie. And this show is going to end up being, this show is going to be like Thor: The Dark World. If you go back and you watch Thor: The Dark World now, it's a much better movie than it was then, because of the way that it's tied. Hey, listen, I know I'm reaching. I said I was reaching. Leave me alone.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
I just had a look. That's all. I didn't say nothing.
This is what we do. Now,
you're talking about book. Talking about book.
Like I said, I'm reaching with listen, you right.
That's how we're gonna get one of these. We're gonna reach.
Right, but look,
we're gonna reach and we're gonna get it right.
In Spider-Man, in the last Spider-Man, when they was taking it, listen, in Homecoming, I was like, hey, you know what? They taking out Avengers Tower. That joint has to be the Baxter Building. I was reaching for Fantastic Four then. This is what we do.
To move in. Ready to move in. Like, we out of that one.
Who else can buy that building?
True point.
It has to be the Baxter Building. That's what's happening.
All these Spider-Man, like we've been seeing all these toys, they variants at this point. They probably not even Tom Holland, so they vary.
I mean, technically, aren't they variants though? Like if we're supposed to be getting Jamie Foxx, listen, it might even be that J.K. Simmons is playing two different versions of a variant of himself.
Dog, that'd be so funny. From both, get in the room together with each other,
which would be so disgusting.
Into it, get me pictures of Spider-Man.
I'm telling you, like, He could be also in witness protection. That would be disgusting. Though. I don't like.
No,
but he has to hire Eddie Brock. Like he has to not know that Eddie Brock is in witness protection because he's under protection or whatever, and he has to hire him. You know what I'm saying? And he's got to hire him because he just accused Spider-Man, and now somebody got to go get him. Listen, I'm allowed to reach. This is my show.
Hey, I've reached. I was like, I've reached. You can reach. I don't think Sin has done an ultimate reach just yet.
No, not. I don't think.
Nah,
so.
He has a couple of them out there, but this episode, nah, he's not reaching right now. He's maxing and relaxing.
I'm getting so much information from y'all right now.
Where this show ends, especially with them telling us there will be a season 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I look at this timeline and I'm like, all right, where does season 2 take place? So that's what I want to know. Sin, look at the timeline. Tell me where Loki season 2 happens. Is it after Doctor Strange? Since they just said that Loki was supposed to be in Doctor Strange?
Yeah, it's after Doctor Strange. It's after
between Doctor Strange and Thor: Love and Thunder?
No, it's later.
It's later.
It's after Captain Marvel release.
So where does it happen? Does it happen
before
Ant-Man and the Wasp?
That's what I'm thinking. Looking at it, I'm thinking between Captain Marvel 2 and Ant-Man.
Hey, listen, J. Robert Deans, I don't think it happens 20 minutes in, but I think it definitely happens. I'm going to say at like the 45-minute halfway mark. That's where I think that happens. Because I think they're going to wait to bring in one of the last one of them until closer to the end of the movie.
To the end. That would be Toby.
Jokes, where does Loki season 2 take place?
Is it
in between this, or does it happen after any of this?
No, I'm putting it in between Black Panther and Captain Marvel. Just for the sheer fact that they've talked about Skrulls and all that type of stuff. We know they exist. I feel like that would be the perfect place to put it. It'll set it up where it can definitely interact with the Marvels, where they can talk into it and then lead into Quantumania. Kang, like I said, could be out and about, and another one out and about in space. And who knows? Some of these movies, whereas though they technically could be in line with it, they could be. Some of these movies may end up being like alternate universe. Like I know we really haven't said any of that, but one of these movies could actually not be a normal continuation of something, and it's just totally set in another universe. Like that wouldn't surprise. I think that would be a real interesting concept to use for it. Loki 2 debuts right after Christmas 2022.
Okay.
I think it's before that.
So that that puts it after
that puts
I'm tripping.
That puts it between
yeah, you're right.
Captain Marvel 2 and Ant-Man.
Yeah, that's what I said. In between there.
Marcus says between Doctor Strange and Thor. That does seem a long time for it to be out. I mean, but again,
you know what else we probably need to do?
It's only like a little over a year from now.
You know what else we probably would need to do? Is fill in some of the other shows that we know, because I feel like with some of the other shows in the middle of this, that would also show some. Hawkeye said this year now. I know they've given that a date.
We know we already got Moon Knight and She-Hulk already. Yep, they got their actor's name and Miss Marvel whenever she ties in. Yeah, they got plenty of shows, to put on Disney Plus in between.
So Miss Marvel, I would imagine her show takes place just before Captain Marvel 2. I'm gonna imagine that she's already an established character when that movie starts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can get behind that.
That's what I would think. Zaina and Frosty both say between Thor and Black Panther.
So that's where both of them in jokes like it.
No, I said after Black Panther before.
Yeah,
you're right.
Black Panther.
Yeah.
Just because that gap, there's a much bigger gap between Panther and Marvel, and I feel like Marvel now is trying to close these gaps. Like whereas we didn't get so much within 1 year, I feel like they're trying to close a lot of these gaps and just consistently have you bouncing between the theater and Disney Plus, and then who knows what they may do with some of these movies if they try to do the straight to Disney. If they end up saying, know what, all the movies are going to be slated to just come out in theaters, and that's all it is, they're going to use everything else to sprinkle in between these big gaps like the one between Marvel and Black Panther.
Book says it'll help set up Ant-Man 3. I'll go with September 2022 because some Star Wars show will be on Disney Plus in November, December. That's totally possible, right? That they won't do that. J. Robert Dean says, and Secret Invasion probably happens before the Marvels, as Photon was recruited by Skrulls at the end of WandaVision. Frosty says, if they do a shorter run season like this one, that gap is almost too big. Yeah, but we never know. Like, we've had shows that are 9 episodes and we've had shows that are 6. Yeah. And there was a time when I really thought they were going to try to wrap this up, tighten up the time. Like, they might pull some stuff together and still tighten the timeline up. But I was really under the impression when they first announced What If, that What If would really just be one-offs. That there were going to be things that are taking place, but they don't actually affect the MCU directly in any way. Now I don't think that's the case. I think looking at the trailer, it looks like even though these are things that are happening throughout other universes because of the Watcher, I think that these are threads that there's still going to be a story thread throughout all of these episodes.
Leading up to something.
That in some way, shape, or form, like what we're looking at is maybe just one alternate universe where some other things, or there will be multiple episodes where that's the case, because having Iron Man with Killmonger leading what appears to be Wakanda, but then having T'Challa apparently having been plucked from Earth as a child and basically being Star-Lord, those things seem like they have to run together. You know what I mean? Like it's either they're all part of the same episode, which I feel like might be too much.
It's just all intertwined.
That will last for at least multiple episodes. I feel like there's going to be a thread that's sewn in there somewhere.
I agree.
The possibility that's somewhere in there, because we see Doctor Strange. As a matter of fact, we see Doctor Strange dealing with Captain Carter. But this could be our Strange from our timeline dealing with something that happens as he's dealing with the multiverse and so forth. So
I got that impression from the trailer too.
And I think the Funko Pops may have once again may have spoiled something, especially with the what if, especially with Killmonger. I think I feel like the what if of him and the Funko Pop that they unveiled of him could possibly also be a lead into what we were talking about, him from a different universe taking over as well, because he's King Killmonger. So it's like
correct. Which is a song from the first soundtrack. Like, that's the thing. You know what I mean? I am, again, as a whole, not just this episode of Loki, but the series, I think is so important. It's more important than Black Widow is right now.
100%.
Yeah,
Black Widow did exactly what I said.
You know, that is a sequel, that is a prequel that is setting up things that we're gonna see. Again, we're gonna see things that have to do with Hawkeye, but he's tied into this somehow, right? So, as a whole, I think that this series shaped up incredibly well. It definitely started off a little too slow for me. And it's only because it's MCU and the threads that it will have to do with that are the reason why I would have kept watching this. If I wasn't already invested in the MCU, I probably would not have continued to watch this series.
Changed somewhere, like when we were on Earth, like next time there was some movie that was on a different Earth, or my trip. I mean, they mentioned stuff within like Spider-Man Far From Home, how they started talking about, Earth 616 and all of this. So they definitely talked about that and established that the MCU is not 616, which is the core comic storyline on there. So the MCU is its own entity, and I think that's the one that actually got the 99. Yeah, that's got the 19999 whatever from it. So Far From Home is where that came up at, and I thought we was on something. When my man started rambling about that, I was like,
man, us and the internet was on something with that little clip. Oh, this was taken out of the trailer. Here's this little clip. Man, I remember that thing blew up the internet.
Yeah, it did.
The conspiracies were real.
They look, at the time, at the most, you could say this was going to lead to a Spider-Verse, but you can't really have that without having a multiverse and having something like this, right?
As someone said earlier, they wanted more alligator Loki. Hey, you could get that because, like, look, alligator Loki, we got Frog Thor, we got Spider-Ham, Like who else has an
Oh
animal?
yeah, there's definitely an
There's an
animated
animal.
series in there somewhere.
It is.
It is.
It is.
It most certainly is.
Definitely an animated series in there.
Do it like Teen Titans Go. I'd watch it,
bruh. If they even have 2 songs that come close to the songs that Teen Titans got,
hey, man, get a Loki cook.
Yeah. All right, so look, Spoiler Boys is gonna be a wrap for a little while, until we get Shang-Chi and until we get through What If. Those are the next 2 big things that are coming. So we get to take a small hiatus. I want to just take a moment to thank everybody for jumping in and participating, for showing us so much love on Patreon and so forth. If you are not a Patreon member, if you are seeing this, if you're in MCU chat, and that means that when you see these, you're only seeing like 15, 20 minutes normally. But we have these kinds of longer conversations every time one of these happens. There's a Spoiler Boys up for Black Widow right now. That is definitely something different from what you'll see when we discuss Black Widow at the end of the month for our correct, Marcus.
Now, don't worry.
But he's so excited.
He knows where. I like how he knows where everything is.
Best boy grip shirt.
My man's trying to be.
That'd be dope.
He's trying to do his own king out here. Like, look, this is already written. I know what's gonna happen. And Jokes, you have a job to do.
Yeah. So the Loading Stacks Movie Club, we are doing Black Widow this month. We're having a meet this Sunday. We're getting together to actually go watch it in person. That ought to be great. If you're not already in the movie club, and you're interested, just look up Loading Stacks Movie Club on Facebook. And generally we approve folks to come through. The discussion that we have about Black Widow at the end of the month will be different from what we do on Spoiler Boys. Of course, we're going to spoil things because you can't do it without
J. Robert. Don't do that, J. Robert.
Stop it.
Drop that link, Marcus.
Let's get his link. Let's get his link together.
Let's get some subscribers.
Yeah. So that's coming up. Just want y'all to be aware there are way more discussions like this. But in that, we'll get into things like cinematography and score and soundtrack and audio and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to just getting into like characters and their motivations and setting and all that kind of stuff. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Because we are live right now, Marcus, tell Jokes what he needs to do, please.
You want to drop it? Let's see how long it takes. Let's see.
It's
gonna
take a minute because this is, it's probably now.
Whoa! Oh, good guy. .com.
You got the promo code?
What's going on? What is going on? Hey, listen, if that's your actual OnlyFans joint, that's way too long. Nah. You are very welcome. You're very welcome. Drop the link in the comments. There it is.
See, you said it wrong though, but we'll do it.
Here's the deal. This is the link tree. Follow us everywhere. If you hit the link tree, you can follow us at all different places we're going. We have a lot happening. This weekend, Jokes and I have a last person standing MCU rock, paper, scissors panel. We're doing a StellarCon. Sin has a special live chat just like this one that is happening in our anime chat group. He'll be heading that up. I'm gonna let you talk about that in a second. And then again on Sunday, we have our live meetup to watch Black Widow in the theater. So again, if you want to get the information for that, you want to make sure that you are in the Loading Stacks Movie Club. Most of you who are here are probably members of MCU chat already. Mm-hmm. Please keep your spoilers to the spoiler section of the MCU chat, if you would. We have received our press badges for Otakon. We have received our panel approval for AwesomeCon. They are both happening in August. They are only 2 weeks apart. We will be at both. We are still working on other cons, as it were. Jokes has gotten his approval for press for AwesomeCon, which is great. 2 of us are waiting on ours. Mm-hmm. So listen, there are things brewing. We are busy. We are going to stay busy. There's a lot more coming, so you want to be tuned into the channels. Follow us across everywhere. Sin, talk to us about what's happening in the anime chat, please.
Anime chat this Saturday at 8 p.m. Myself and some of the other admins will be getting together to discuss sports anime, since it is the 2021 Olympics getting ready to go down in Tokyo, Japan. So besides just discussing sports animes, we'll be highlighting some of the most popular sports animes with Hajime no Ippo for boxing, Yomushi's Pedal for cycling, Haikyuu for volleyball, Free for swimming, and Kuroku's basketball for basketball. So if you're in anime, jump in the anime chat with us, and it's going to be a good time, definitely.
That is Saturday at 8.
Yes,
J.
8
Robert
p.m.
Deans, just PM me, Mike. You say Micah Myers, and I'm thinking Halloween because the way I have to
No,
say it.
really,
But
I
shoot me the
don't know.
information, so I can try to check them out. The reality of it is, I am basically hosting. I will be on
Yeah.
stage the entire time of the con from 11 to 5.
Yeah, it won't be the norm. It won't be the normal go around and
all that kind of stuff. So yes, we have a panel, but I'm gonna be a little busy, so I probably won't ever get off the stage and won't see him unless he gets up and comes to see me. But I might send jokes to say hi or something
I'll
like
say
that.
hi because I'm gonna be walking around taking pictures. Like I'm.
Yeah.
This is the first time to actually get out and to do something for real. So like, picture taking and video recording is going to be real at Stellar.
Cuddy, relax. Okay, this is not the time or the place. Listen, there are some show and tells coming your way. Just keep that in mind. There are some show and tells coming your way. 3 Adidas Lego bills, technically. Now, having said that, that's right, Zaina. Having said that, again, we want to thank everybody for hanging out with us here on Spoiler Boys.
Spoiler Boys.
This is exactly how we get down. Thank y'all for getting down with us. With that, we are out. Toodles and lose. And Lego Voltron.